Hey everyone. It's been a hot minute. Also, I apologize before anything for my terrifying blue-eyed scare. Right now, I know I already have, like, by default, big autistic eyes, and the only thing that saves me from having the really, really uncanny, oh my god, please wear contacts stare is having brown eyes. But I didn't want to waste any of my temporary prescription contacts just to make this video because I was running out, and the only prescription contacts I had were these ones that I use to cosplay. So you're gonna have to bear looking into my big, beautiful orbs. Yeah, I'm sorry. I also really quickly wanted to make a life update because I have not made a video in a hot minute, even though I said I would, especially about, updating about top surgery and whatnot. And then I didn't. And this time, I don't just have my usual ADHD, like, excuse of like, oh yeah, I forgot, I couldn't remember to do it, I didn't have time. Actually, I have had a bit of a difficult last couple of years. After top surgery at the end of 2023, I was like on top of the world. Everything felt perfect. I thought my life was going into perfect direction. And then kind of everything kind of sort of came crashing down during 2024. It was a shitty year. I had the worst time of my life on all fronts. I had so many like health issues that bled into mental health issues that basically led to me self-isolating and kind of ruining all my close friendships and relationships a little bit. My health issues led to a lot of physical side effects that meant I could not stand to look at myself in the mirror or like even like the thought of being on camera. And then also, really fun, I ended up having a stalker for the best part of the summer because for really stupid reason actually. I'm an artist, I post my art online. I'm never going to attach my art to my face ever again because of the issue with said stalker. To make it an extremely long story, extremely short, someone got really parasocial about my art a few years ago and tried to become friends with me. And I was open to it. After me telling them, like, yeah, sure, I will if a friendship naturally develops, and that didn't happen, apparently they've been sulking about it for the past few years in secret, and then all of a sudden they decided to try and ruin my life last summer. It was not fun at all. It was a fucking ordeal. To be honest, it did kind of like re-traumatized me because I've dealt with stalkers before when I was growing up as a teenager, so it was sort of more like reopening old wounds that I thought I'd gotten over, and surprise, surprise, life always throws a curveball at you. But yeah, basically that meant that for the best of 2025, I just picking myself up. I was in no state to like be recording videos and doing any sorts of update. And to be fair, all of these issues ended up kind of end up bleeding into why I had a hysterectomy and now talking about it because actually all of the health issues that again bled into mental health issues also ended up being caused by stuff that I hopefully, fingers crossed, solved by getting a hysterectomy. I do need to make a trigger warning about body image and weight talk because I will be doing a lot of that because unfortunately it is a big part of the issues that I had and it's been so hard for me to like make a video and whatnot. I want to say before anything, disclaimer, I think weight gain or loss is morally neutral. It's not a good or a bad thing inherently. There's nothing at all wrong with gaining weight, but I'm treating it as a symptom of other health related issues that for me were really not good. Like just generally all in all not a good picture. So just keep that in mind when if I'm talking negatively about weight gain through this video, it's not because weight gain is inherently a bad thing, especially not in my case because I was actually kind of pretty underweight before. I should have gained weight, but it should have been a healthy process, not something that happened despite my actual habits. Again, symptom, not a inherently bad or good or bad thing. It was just like in context, within the context of my life, it was a thing that for me was negative. So before I get into the actual hysterectomy, I do need to get into, again, the health issues and what happened. There is just a general, like, life state that I was used to before I got on T. That was this general, like, combination of just feeling achy all the time, really low energy, chronic pains of all sorts, feeling demotivated, emotional dysregulation, like extreme emotional dysregulation, by the way. Like basically, the best way I can put it is before I went on T, emotionally it was kind of like I was in PMS all the time. And when I actually was having PMS, it was even worse. The thing where basically you are suicidal when you are about to have a period or having a period, and it was not about the thing itself, because yes, I did have some associations with it that brought me dysphoria, but even when I didn't have those, even when I was in a good frame of mind about like, yeah, whatever, I'm having a period, it doesn't make me any less of a man, I would still have extreme emotional dysregulation when it was happening. And then also, like, again, around the clock. I always dealt with chronic migraines, but they were even worse before. I have IBS-C. It is extremely hard to deal with. It's extremely painful. I remember before testosterone, my quality of life was horrible. And I kind of sort of attributed it all to one, just being a sickly teenager, also because I was dealing with other issues, health issues, consequences of a pretty extreme eating disorder, and also just, general mental well-being from going on hormones finally. But the thing is, I mean, obviously I did have a massive improvement once I started T, but the thing that I remember that really spiked up my quality of life massively, rather than going on T, which yes was an improvement from before, but it was starting estrogen blockers, which I did back in 2020 because when I was doing my blood work after being a year and a bit on T, my endocrinologist realized that, oh shit, your estrogen is still pretty high. And another thing is that when I first got on T, after the first 5 months, I stopped having periods, but then I switched to injections because I was taking gel before. And when I switched to injections, immediately my period came back. And even after switching back to gel, which personally I deal a lot better with, my periods never left. It became a thing that I had all the time, always, no matter what. Which again, my periods, they were extremely bad. Again, I already talked about emotionally, but also physically. I was in excruciating pain. I was in excruciating pain when ovulating also. I remember growing up all the time, I would get in my period, think like, well, you know what, I can't like put my life on hold for this. I'll go to school and then go to school, and then feeling so horrible, like I was not functional. I was sitting at my desk in school, clutching my middle and just kind of like trying not to pass out from the pain and then having to call home anyway, which basically meant that when I had periods, I was functional maybe like a week of the month. I was having symptoms the whole week before, and then my periods lasted a week or even more. And then I was having symptoms when I was also ovulating. So again, it was basically just 1 week out of the month where I was feeling fine and normal. So going back, my endocrinologist, after a year and a bit on T and seeing that my estrogen was still extremely high for someone that had been on testosterone for that long, and I was still having periods, they prescribed me the medroxyprogesterone, I think. But basically, the thing that should be in the depot shot, I think that's what it's called in the US here. What I got was just a pill. It was a pill that I took every day. And what it did, it wasn't just an estrogen blocker, it was a hormone suppressant in general. Basically, my body wasn't producing any hormones, and then on top of that, I was putting on the testosterone, so that meant that hormone profiles was pretty balanced. Ever since I started taking the pill, my life my life quality improved massively. It was night and day. I wasn't dealing with nearly as many chronic issues. I was feeling so much better in general. I had so much better energy levels. I also had a lot less like brain fog and like issues with motivation and executive function. And then also my mood was stable for the first time in my life, like properly stable. And then also not having periods meant that, hey, I was functional from the clock. I wasn't just functional like 1 week out of the month. I did lose a lot of weight, which I didn't try. I have an history of eating disorders, but when that started happening, I wasn't like restricting or doing anything like bad. I was eating pretty healthy, but I already was before. It just all of a sudden, quote unquote, I thought started working, which again, now I realize it was because all of a sudden I was on a hormone balance that worked for me. I just kind of thought that it was my new normal. I thought everything was fine and cool and dandy and great. And then, pretty soon after I got up surgery, I got a follow-up endocrinologist appointment, and my endocrinologist was like, oh, hey, you've been on this thing for a really long time. That's not good to suppress your hormones for that long. I'm sure by now your hormones have settled. You can try tapering this off now. Which I did, and everything went to shit since. It was a slow thing. I didn't notice it creep up. The first thing is that I started feeling quote-unquote insane. I was feeling really emotionally dysregulated. I was feeling really insecure in my relationships and my friendships, and I kind of drove all my close of my loved ones insane. Then after that, I started feeling like awful, like physically, and then I started gaining weight, which seemed completely inexplicable. because I had not changed my habits at all. I was still eating pretty healthy, moving a lot. Didn't make any sense logically. I had a pretty bad stint with my eating disorder relapse because, well, I guess that means I need to eat less and move more. And if I restrict more, maybe it will work. And nothing was working. Like, no matter what I did, no matter how little I ate, I still kept piling on weight and piling on weight and piling on weight. Which I know I was starting from a place of being pretty underweight, so it wasn't really noticeable. People felt like, oh, you look fine. Actually, you look healthier now. But it wasn't about what I looked like. It was about the fact that that I hadn't changed my habits and I wasn't eating healthy and I still kept gaining weight. And like, maybe, yes, maybe I should have been a little bit heavier back then, but I would have liked to get there healthily, not like that. So naturally, I took a really long time trying to investigate this issue and where it was coming from. First thing that I suspected was my thyroid, because my mom has had thyroid issues. She has issues with hyperthyroidism, not hypothyroidism, but that immediately pinged for me because I know that, you know, the opposite is a thing, so I thought maybe, oh shit. But I got it tested. Actually, I am also somewhat on the verge of hyperthyroidism myself, which again doesn't really make any sense with symptoms that I was having. Which was, yes, pretty much a rehash of everything that I described that I was dealing with before I got on stage. Endocrinologist suggested my blood sugar levels, that maybe I might have some kind of insulin resistance, but I also tested that, and there was nothing about that either. And then eventually, through other testing, I came to realize, oh wait, shit, your ovaries are hyperactive, because, well, that's one other thing. I don't know this for certain. Because what I was told was simply like, hey, your ovaries are making too much of all hormones. Either you get it removed or you take blockers your whole life. Now, I did not know this going into actually getting a hysterectomy. It was something I learned about while I was in the process of signing up for a hysterectomy. So, how did that actually go? Hysterectomy, it was something that for the longest time I just genuinely didn't consider at all, because, I don't know, it just felt like something that I didn't really need to do. It's an internal organ. It doesn't bring me any dysphoria to think about, because, like, it's not like people are gonna see it. It's not like people are gonna look at me and know, ha, this person has a uterus, right? It's like, it's whatever. I never liked having periods. They were fucking nightmarish. As long as I could suppress them with, like, drugs and medicine, you know, I didn't really care. I was like, yep, cool, sick. I'll just not have periods and not think about it, and everything's going to be fine, great, and dandy. There's another thing that made me resistant to wanting hysterectomy, and it's the fact that, at least here, I don't know how it is in other countries, but at least here in Italy, and specifically in South Italy where I live, from the moment I started medically transitioning, it felt like every medical professional around me was pushing me really hard to get a hysterectomy. Like, from the moment I started hormones, one of the first things I was told was like, okay, cool, and here's like info to get a hysterectomy whenever you want to, right? You are getting a hysterectomy, right? And it felt really pushy and not great. Didn't feel comfortable with the way it was, again, pushed on me. For one hand, it was the assumption that just because I was transmasculine, I would want 100% a hysterectomy. And the other fact that it did feel a little bit eugenic-y, and like there was a push to sterilize trans people, which when I started medically transitioning, they had just, and I mean just, like that year, changed a law where when you started hormones, you were required to get a hysterectomy first before anything else medical besides hormones. Like, if you wanted to get your ID changed, and if you wanted to get a top surgery, you would have had to get a hysterectomy first. And again, that to me, I don't know, man. It did feel really eugenic-y. It did feel very much, oh, you trans people should not breed and you should get sterilized as soon as possible. Otherwise the state isn't going to recognize you as a person. So for that reason, I just always kind of like, I didn't really consider it. It didn't feel necessary. It didn't bring me any discomfort besides in the abstract. And then I started having the fucking health issues that I had the past few years. And I honestly, part of why I started looking into a hysterectomy is because my period did come back. After I got taken off the hormone suppressants that I was on since 2020, I got put on simple birth control to not have periods anymore, but that was kind of horrible also. It wasn't estrogen-based birth control. It didn't add any hormones to my hormone chart, but it didn't work. It didn't do anything for me, and I kept having, like, after that I did keep having periods. It wasn't regular, it wasn't consistent, it was on and off, but it did happen regularly enough for me to be like, okay, well, I need to do something about this. And I had a friend who had a hysterectomy a couple of years ago, here locally. So I asked him like, hey, where did you go? What did you do? Like, how was the process? So he told me, and he told me also like, hey, on the 6th of September, this other friend that I have that I also who was also someone who I knew was going in for a consult to get a hysterectomy with this doctor. You also want to tag along? And I was like, you know what? Hell yeah. So once I had my first consult with the surgeon, the first topic of discussion came about, which was what kind of hysterectomy did I want? For anyone who doesn't know, a hysterectomy plays around with many different moving parts, right? Because it's not just like you just have the uterus and that's it, right? AFAB reproductive system has a lot of parts to make it up. So there's the uterus, the ovaries, the cervix, the tubes, all of that general stuff that makes up the whole entirety of it. And when you refer to just a hysterectomy, usually what you mean is just removing the uterus and that's it. Now, I knew that a total hysterectomy means that you also take out the cervix together with the uterus, and a partial hysterectomy is when you leave the cervix and cut out the uterus. I thought, going into that, at that point I didn't know about my defective ovaries yet. My thought process was, well, I don't want to take my ovaries out because ovaries are what produces your hormones. If you take your ovaries out, you stop producing sex hormones, point blank. And that to me, it was a scary thought because I had here where I live, at least here where I live in Italy, there's been a lot of issues with HRT in the time I've been transitioning medically. There's been many outages, there's been many times where there wasn't any kind of hormones available, and you had to wait months until you refill if you didn't already have a stock because things were bad like that. And I thought, well, if I remove my ovaries and something like this happens again, I'm shit out of luck. And what if, we kind of have a fascist prime minister at the moment? What if things go even more far right and transition gets banned outright? To be fair, that will not affect me right now because my ID has been changed. So I am legally considered a man. So for me, my hormone doesn't get classed as a transgender medicine thing. A man who doesn't make his own testosterone. So I need extra. So I don't think that would affect me in that case, but I still kind of like, you never know what they're gonna overturn, what they're gonna, it just felt scary. Because obviously, like, not having any hormones at all, that's pretty bad for you, right? So that scared me, and then also, I thought, going into it, because from what I heard, that getting a total hysterectomy is kind of bad for you. Like, getting a cervix removed, you could risk structural integrity, and it's just not good. So, at first, again, going into it, my thought was, well, I'm just gonna get the uterus removed, and that's all. So when I went to the consult, I told the surgeon, like, hey, is there any way we can do it this way? And to be fair, he was kind of set in his ways. He was kind of like, no, the only way I personally do it is complete total removal of uterus, cervix, and ovaries. I first asked for information about the cervix thing, and actually, from what he told me, and then I went and researched it more myself, actually, the thing about structural integrity is kind of a myth. You are not a risk of structural damage to your pelvic floor if you get a cervix removed. If you get your cervix removed, unless you have already had some kind of trauma to the area or childbirth. Otherwise, you are pretty good. Might be some trouble later on in life, but at that point, you're probably going to have some kind of trouble anyway. And also, the other thing is, most cancers of the female reproductive system start in the cervix. So if you get your cervix removed, you don't need to get it checked as often, and you eliminate a lot of possibility of getting uterine cancer, cervical cancer, ovarian cancer, etc., all of that. If you do remove the cervix, you can do it laparoscopically, which is least invasive surgery. It's the easiest recovery period. When you do it laparoscopically, you don't cut into the muscle and then take the organs out. What you do is that they do a few cuts on your abdomen, very, very tiny ones that heal pretty easily, to insert the robotic arms that are going to do the surgery, then pull everything out from your birth canal, basically, and then stitch it back up from the inside. No need to do any kind of big cuts, open up your muscles, etc., etc., etc. But if they leave the cervix in, they cannot do it that way. You have to do it the other way, which I don't remember what the term for that would be, but basically they have to do like a 6-section cut in your abdomen where they actually cut into your abdominal muscles big time, take out the organ, then sew everything back in, and it's a lot more intensive of a recovery period. It's a lot harder to heal from, and it has a lot more higher complications because, well, you are cutting your abdominal muscles and then putting them back together, and who knows what could happen with that. So after the explanation, I was, okay, pretty convinced of getting it done laparoscopically and also getting cervix removed and getting a total hysterectomy. The other thing was, though, my ovaries. At first, again, like I said, I didn't want to get rid of them because I thought, like, well, hey, that's going to be dangerous for me medically. And the surgeon, again, he was pretty set on removing them also. Again, his logic was that if you take everything out but leave the ovaries, those are two organs that you are very likely not going to check on regularly, and there's a high chance that you might develop ovarian cancer and not notice until it's too late because you were just not thinking about that area straight up. If you are not planning on using them and you are planning on being on HRT for the rest of your life, well, might as well just, take everything out together and get it over with, right? He told me, like, so I'll put you in line for surgery anyway. We can discuss this at a later time. Like, you can call me once you've come to a decision whether you want the ovaries in or not, preferably before we call you back for surgery. But I would say, like, just think about it. And I was like, okay, yes, I will. I'll think about it. And almost immediately, as soon as I did that, I had my next endocrinologist appointment where they looked at my blood tests and my ovaries and all this stuff, and they were like, hey, the issue that you've been having for all this time is your ovaries. And I told them, like, I got in line for a hysterectomy, and they were like, well, this could radically solve the problem. Otherwise, you might just have to be on blockers for the rest of your life. And I was like, you know what? Great. Okay. Guess that answers it for me. I called my surgeon and I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Get everything out. I'm in. But what I mentioned before, about how much they pushed it on me initially, that didn't mean that this was extremely accessible, extremely easy to sign up for and wait for, and like completely, it was night and day from my experience having top surgery because it wasn't like there was no waiting and issues and like stalling. It was literally just, okay, there was a clinic right next to where I live. I didn't have to travel at all. um the wait time was probably like less than a month before I got called in for when my surgery date was going to be. It was extremely breezy, and I did not pay a single cent. Like, throughout the entire process, I don't think I had to pay for anything except like my own blood tests that I would have done anyway. Like, when I first saw the surgeon, he even did an X-ray on me to check everything, what it was looking like, and I didn't have to pay for that. Just to have all the information there on the table, I went to a local hospital. Right, I am in the Naples area in Campania in Italy. I went to San Giuliano, to the San Giuliano Hospital in Giugliano, and the doctor who did the surgery, he was Dr. Giuseppe Paolo Improda. I did not get hospitalized and operated on at San Giuliano because actually they do, from what I understand, they do this operation at the Pozzuoli Hospital La Schiana. They admit you at Giuliano and then transfer you to Pozzuoli and then take you back to the Giuliano Hospital. And I think they just caught the middleman for when I got signed up for all of that. The first visit that I had with Improda was in Giuliano, but then after that, I did do a lot of other checkups and I did them all in Pozzuoli. So I think, yeah, if you are in the Campania area and you are in for like hysterectomy, you're probably just going to be in Pozzuoli, just straight up. That's where everything happens. I got in line on the 6th of September and I got called back around the beginning of November, I'm pretty sure, to tell me that my surgery date would be, well, they didn't tell me when my surgery date would be. They just told me, okay, well, you're gonna have surgery soon and you need to come at the Pozzuoli Hospital on the 26th to have a general checkup and like your first like tests and visits, whatnot. So on the 26th, I went, I did a blood test, I did an EKG, and then I did a lung x-ray to see what my lung capacity was, and that was just the first things that I got checked up. I thought I might have to have another x-ray or like a pelvic exam or like something down there, but no, nothing, none of that. Then they called me back for the week right after that. I don't remember exactly when the date was, but it was exactly a week after these tests. Again, to come to the Pozzuoli Hospital, and this time mostly to just look at the results from last week, and then also to have a meeting with the anesthesiologist, for everything before the actual surgery. And then they told me finally my actual date, which would be on the 11th of December. Basically, what they told me was, okay, so since you're getting surgery on the 11th, on the 10th morning, you gotta come in, you're gonna do another blood test, then you're gonna be admitted to the hospital, then you're doing surgery the day after, and then you might be discharged the day immediately after that, or 2 days after, depends on how you're doing it. So the day I was supposed to be admitted, it was kind of a mess because the hospital was having an issue where too many people had come into the ER, because when I got top surgery, it was a private clinic and I wasn't just for that, and it was like a wing that was entirely for that. This was a general hospital for like a billion other things. Like I was in the gynecology wing of the hospital, but that was a general hospital, so there was an ER, and the ER was full for whatever reason, so they didn't have any beds, and we had the other guys who were getting surgery in the same time. We had to wait pretty much, I think it was 9 hours in the waiting room until they got a room ready. That was fun. Evening, we just, we got into rooms, we kind of fucking crashed, we were tired of shit. And then at around 10 p.m. that night, they came in to put our IVs in. Weirdly enough, like they didn't put in the actual like IV, just the ports. When I got top surgery, they did that like right before surgery, but for this thing, they did it like the night before. I don't know. And also gave us a bowel cleanse, which it was pretty intense, but not gonna lie, like I said, I struggle with IBS-C, so for me that was fantastic. I was really backed up, and I did need that very badly, so I was really glad that it happened. They woke us up at 6:30 in the morning after we were supposed to get surgery immediately. Like the first surgeries of the day were going to be ours. So I got wheeled down at the same time, at around 7, but I waited in the recovery room for it to be my turn, because the surgery itself was only going to take like about an hour. And so they did the other guy before me, and I waited for about an hour in the recovery room without my glasses, without my phone. Thankfully, it was pretty warm and it was pretty cozy in there. It was fine. Honestly, at that point, I wasn't even nervous. Like, they had me sign a consent form with everything that could go wrong. But actually, I mean, I was kind of nervous going into surgery. I'm an anxious person. I had gotten a major surgery before, so I knew like I kind of like was already more calm, but I did still have some apprehension just about the going under in general. And they gave me a consent form with everything that could go wrong, but at the same time, under every possible complication, they were also listing like, okay, so this is what could happen, and then this is what we're going to do to fix it. So that like it calmed me down a lot, because it was telling me like, hey, yes, you could have some horrible side effects, and like, touch wood, something goes extremely tits up in the middle of it, you're not going to walk out of here dead or maimed. So that was like, okay, all right. So I signed the consent form. I felt better. I felt calmer. I chatted with a nurse until it was my turn, and then at around 8, I went in, and by 10, I was awake. And it was fine. I was perfectly fine and alert. And unlike with top surgery, I remember when I woke up from the top surgery, I woke up, yes, I woke up when they were immediately wheeling me out of the room, but I was like so sleepy and out of it, still kind of like falling asleep on myself. So I just really quickly like texted everyone to tell them like, yes, I'm still alive, yes, I made it, everything went well, and then almost immediately like I passed out for an hour. This time I was pretty alert right out of the gate. Like I woke up again, yes, right out of surgery, like not even in my room yet. I was being wheeled up there, and I was alert, perfectly alert. I felt fine, honestly. I didn't even feel a little bit nauseous like I did right after top surgery. I felt fine. Yeah, I went into my room and I felt okay. I did not have much pain at all. They had this like warm blanket, like this heated blanket on my belly area that felt kind of like a hot water bottle. Honestly, it felt like the tail end of a period, like pain wise. Um, there was some discomfort because of the IV, and also they put a catheter in me, so that was pretty uncomfortable. But honestly, besides that, I didn't feel that bad at all. Definitely not as much as I expected to. The rest of the day passed pretty unremarkably. It felt pretty long because we like it was the whole entire day with very little to do. Like the nurses would come in every now and then and give us IVs and check that everything was going fine and give us pain meds if we needed them, etc., etc. We couldn't eat at all, also because before giving us any kind of actual like water or food, they wanted to make sure that our pelvic floor was still working. So what they told us was nothing at all for today. Then from this night to until tomorrow morning, you are going to need to be able to fart, because if you don't, that means that something is wrong with your pelvic floor. We need to make sure that your pelvic floor is working, and for that you need to pass gas. So I did pretty normally that night and the morning after. Even then, there was still like some mix-ups with the nurses and whatnot, where some of them were telling us like, "Oh, well, you can't be allowed to eat until the doctor sees you and tells you that everything is fine." And some were saying like, "Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure you look fine. You could eat right now if you wanted," because they did bring us breakfast. We just, weren't cleared officially to eat yet. Then eventually around 10, the doctor finally came and visited us, and we were cleared to eat, to drink, and to take the catheters out, which was so uncomfortable. The worst part of the entire thing was probably just the catheter. I didn't like having that at all, but obviously it's needed for the surgery. Yep, they took my catheter out. I was able to pee pretty normally immediately after. I ate and drank some water, and I felt a lot better immediately as soon as I was able to have breakfast. And then around midday, they discharged me, and I was able to go back home. Pretty remarkable. The instructions that they gave me when they discharged me was most of them applied for the coming month. So, and for this month after surgery, no overexerting myself, no lifting anything really heavy. Looking online, the guideline seems to be around 4 kilos, but they didn't give me like an exact estimate. They just told me like don't lift anything heavy. No working out. If you can, sleep on your back for as much as possible. It's not like for top surgery where it's about your stitches possibly tearing. It's about your organs like finding their place again. In since now there's like more space. And also, if you are someone who has penetrative sex, you cannot have any kind of penetration for the next 3 months, actually, they told me. It did not apply to me, but for anyone who might need that information. And for checkups, get a blood test a week after just to check that everything was going fine. Then after 10 days, I was going to go and get my stitches checked and then possibly taken out. And then 40 days after, so not yet, but soon, I should go back to them and have my checkup and then also look at like the biopsy of the organ and if see if there was anything like off about it at all. My actual immediate recovery was honestly pretty mild. It was at the same time both better and worse than top surgery. The first week I had a little bit of period like cramps every now and then, nothing too major. I didn't ever need to take like anything for it, unlike my actual period when I had it. There was some spotting. I honestly was expecting a lot worse because I didn't need to wear a pad for the first few days after, but it wasn't like I wasn't like soaking it. It was just like a little bit of blood. Oh my God, I had crazy pain in my right shoulder. Because when they do this kind of surgery, they put gases in you to blow up your own abdomen so that they can actually like see what they're doing. And then when that gases get absorbed by your body, they get trapped in your upper body and specifically your shoulders, and it hurts really fucking bad. It's only for like a couple of days though. Um, then I think it was more so for the from the catheter than anything else. But at first, I did have some issue like I didn't have any issues peeing. Did not feel any need to go to the bathroom or a stimulus to go until it was starting to become painful because my bladder was too full. Thing, I felt like this weird sense of fullness. Like I couldn't eat to the full capacity that I could before, not because my appetite was normal, perfectly normal, but when you get initially full and then your stomach expands to make room for more food, did not have that at all. As soon as my stomach was filled up, it started feeling almost painful and I had to stop because it felt like there was no room for my stomach to expand. And then also any kind of like leaning forwards too much or like exerting myself too much would feel like having cramps, not in my uterus area, but like in my ab muscles, like straight up, like as if I've worked out too much. And then also I have the 4 incisions from the surgery that I would need to disinfect and change the bandages on every single day. Then the second week I got the blood tests, I took the stitches out, and I stopped needing to like change the bandages and whatnot. I would still get some mild cramping every now and then, but it got a lot more sparse. I did feel like I was getting more of my stomach capacity back. But I still kept it mostly slow because it still like fill up really quick and it felt like it was pressing against my internal stitches. At this point it wasn't like there wasn't any room or like it couldn't stretch, but more so if it was full then it would press on that area and it would just hurt. So I tried to keep it mostly to liquids. Tried sleeping on my side at this point just to see if I could, and it did like leave some discomfort. Like it felt like having trapped gas the morning after I woke up, so I just decided to not do it still for a little bit. And then after week 3, it was almost normal. Like most of these issues had cleared, but I did feel like Like the thing that I felt the most is the same that I felt for top surgery, which is this weird feeling of like I just feel more tired and more depleted a lot faster. Like if I exert myself too much, then I started feeling like tired and achy and just like okay, well I don't have any energy to do anything else, and that's about it. But I could like do more normal stuff, walk more, carry more weight, and do more like just my normal activities. Now, week 4. I feel almost perfectly normal. Like I still feel some residual like aches in my ab muscles, but literally that's about it. Other than that, I feel pretty normal. My incisions have completely healed up. Um, they're very noticeable because the scars have gotten like hypertrophic, but I don't really like care to do much about them because they're so small and like once my body hair fully grows over them, they probably won't be visible that much anyway. And even if they are visible, I don't really care if they are. Like they don't really look like anything and I don't like mind them too much. It's scars, it's whatever. All in all, it's like a little bit more intensive and more long lasting than top surgery recovery was, but also like a lot like easier at the same time. Like it feels like there's less stuff going on. It's just like slower, right? Even in just this recovery period, I have immediately noticed a stark difference in life quality. Like, it's insane. I am so convinced that, yes, my hormone imbalance was the cause of all of my issues that I've had these past few years because almost immediately they got in so much better. Even through all of the recovery-ish stuff, nothing. Like, I've had a lot better I just can feel myself better. Like I can feel my body working better. My mood has been so stable again, and that is one of the biggest indicators. My skin is so much clearer. I had been like my hormonal acne that I got when I started testosterone had cleared out like right before I started having all of this hormonal issues. And then as soon as they started, I was having like crazy acne again. It's going away. It's going away. Like just like that. So like my IBS-C symptoms are so much better all of a sudden. And also TMI maybe, but I do need to talk about this. I was someone who used to have a lot of really crazy uterus cramping every time I had an orgasm. Like that was something that I always dealt with. And being able to do that without pain immediately after, mind blowing. I did not think that that could be possible. I did not think that that was a life that I could have. I had a lot of like doubts going into it. I had a lot of fear that I was doing something wrong, that I was going to regret basically taking an organ out of my body. But already, like just a month after, I can tell that I made the perfect decision for me, and I would do it all over again 10 times over. Yeah, it's a very personal thing. Because this for me, after everything I just said, I think you can pretty much tell it wasn't a gender affirming thing for me. I don't really have any like gender feelings attached to my uterus. It was a health thing for me specifically. At the same time, though, I do feel like this is kind of the end of my medical transition. Like besides this, I don't have much that I want to do gender wise. I'm just keep taking testosterone for the rest of my life, and that's about it. I would like to maybe at some point in my life have a simple release metoidioplasty because I'm very happy with the bottom growth that I had just on testosterone, and it does feel like perfectly functional. I would just like be able to make it more functional for penetration, but it's not something that like I need for my for gender affirmation. It's more so something that might be fun and might improve my quality of life if I try to pursue it. It's just know that it's not easy to get here, and especially not cheap. And I don't have money like that. So if I was able to find a surgeon that could do it for a reasonable enough amount of money, and that's like not too far from here that I would have to travel crazy distance, uh I would want to do that, but it's again not really a gender thing as much as I'd like to do that someday maybe. But as far as gender goes, I think that puts the lid on it. I do feel like it's kind of like it's done. I have trans my gender. Yep. That's it. Now, for the other thing, my top surgery update. The answer actually is kind of that after the 3 weeks update that I did, it was just kind of normal. Like there wasn't much to report about, like just my scars changing and shifting, but health wise it was pretty much back to life as normal for me. I do have a little bit to document about scars, and I will now that I'm gonna take my shirt off and like just show you what it's looking like. But yeah, it's been pretty unremarkable, and I've been really enjoying life without tits also. So here's what everything is looking like. Sorry, there's some redness. I have a hot water bottle because it's really fucking cold. I had some like ingrown hairs from shaving for surgery. But yeah, so this is as far as top surgery, here's what my scars are looking like. So far I am 2 years post-op now. As far as my scars go, like as you can tell, they still straight flat to my skin, completely flat to my skin. They're noticeable like color-wise, but obviously they're already fading out a lot and they're, getting more faint to my skin. This one has this like indent thing here, but I think it's because I got a split stitch, a lot of split stitch in this area while I was healing, so that might be related to that. Um, I do think is like as time keeps passing and I continue healing, they will fade more evenly into the rest of my skin tone. My nipples, they still haven't completely regained pigment. They are still regaining pigment. Like to this day, they're still regaining pigment. Like this one, it was a lot faint, like it was a lot less dark before. Like it keeps getting like darker still. So eventually, I think they might be finally completely even. But like I said also before, if they don't get completely even, I'll just get tattoos over them. The scar around my nipples has faded significantly. It's gotten a lot flatter to the skin. It's a lot less irritated looking. I think now you can barely notice it. Again, I might at some point get a tattoo over it just to cover up like the, all the jaggedness of the scar. At least on the nipple part. But I don't mind it too much. I don't care about it. I still, just like I said before, I have full sensation both in my incisions and in my nipples, like around them and on them. I'll have a lot, and I still have a lot more sensation now than I did before I got top surgery. um, I have I have some really faint dog earring on this side, but again, it's extremely faint, and you basically can't tell that it's there. So I don't really care about it. I don't care to do much about it. Yeah. As for my histo, these are my scars. I had an incision here, two here, and then one inside my belly button. As you can tell, like they're already getting like hypertrophic and raised. I don't really care about them. It was like 2 stitches per incision, I'm pretty sure. And like I'm pretty like as you can see, as soon as my body hair is fully grown back, they're gonna be covered completely. So I don't really care. When I first got my stitches out, a thing that I noticed that was weird, I had like a little bump in my belly button, like right here. Uh, but it seems to have reabsorbed, so I don't really care. My belly button looked kind of weird, like immediately right out of surgery, but it seems like it's getting back to normal. So I don't all in all I don't care too bad. Yeah, but that's the situation right now. And yeah, this has been it. I guess I would like to go back to making more videos, and I say this every fucking time. I know I do. It's just like I have this channel, I would like to do stuff with it, and honestly, I've always been passionate about activism and queer activism. Through the years, it has shifted like what I want to talk about and what I feel like I should be talking about. Um, but I've never like stopped wanting to talk more about it. I think right now specifically, the thing that I'm passionate about is being in fandom and the way fandom merges with queer activism and queer statement generally, and queer identity. I cannot promise anything though. I don't know if I'll ever be able to do that. But if you see me starting to do like some kind of like fandom queer perspective retrospective videos about stuff, don't be weirded out. Also because I think after this, I don't know if I'm going to be making any personal transition videos. I might make some videos like about my life in general and like transness the way I perceive it. I don't think that I'm going to have any more transition updates after this, though, unless I do manage to at some point get metaloplasty, because, like I said, it's done for me. That's it. Like I've been on T. Like maybe I might talk about being on T for 10 years when I reached a milestone, and a few things about that. But there really isn't much to say. Like I'm just living life, and it's normal, and you know, it is what it is. I don't think about it that much day to day. At least like on a personal level. On a worldwide level, yeah, I do think about the issue. I just don't think about it as, it pertains to me. Yeah, thank you for sticking around for this video. I really do hope that don't just vanish for the next 2 years again. See you soon, or don't. And if you want to check out Anything else about my transition, that's what I have for now, but hopefully it won't be the only thing. Thank you again, and bye. See you next time.